Hello beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to give you my first impressions of a game I spent the last few weeks playing, and that game being No Man's Sky. Currently I'm sitting at 40 hours, and that will likely increase in the weeks to come. Now let's begin. No Man's Sky as of last month is a 7-year-old title, and as such has gone through many changes since its release back in 2016. I did not play the game on release, as I was skeptical about it, and with hindsight I can say that I was rightly so. That being said, I can confidently say that No Man's Sky of 2016 and No Man's Sky of 2023 are completely different games, and that Halo Games, the developers of the game, have done a tremendous job at improving it and going back to fix the game and fulfill the undelivered promises made back then. No Man's Sky is a sandbox action-adventure survival exploration RPG, which is set in space in a futuristic sci-fi setting. You spend the majority of your time traveling from planet to planet, gathering resources on them, and either selling or processing those into new ones, and you can repeat that several times, as most resources have multiple refinement levels. You might be wondering, what do you do with those resources once you've processed or sold them? Well, several different things. You can take the new resource and use it to create different upgrades for your character equipment and ship, or take the currency you make by selling it and purchase different ones instead. The progression is very natural and satisfying to do, as you can feel the impact of each upgrade as it directly affects your gameplay and what you do. The game has internal economy that fluctuates depending on what you sell or buy, as such either increasing or lowering the demand for these products and their price accordingly. This allows you to roleplay as a merchant traveling from one galaxy to another and make solid profits that way, and invest those profits into your character directly. The game has several different factions, each with distinct language, lore, technology. You meet them as you play, and even customize your own character to look as them once you reach your first space station. You can learn their language as you collect words of it scattered around different planets, and slowly start to understand what they're saying when you speak with them, as initially everything they say will be a jumbled mess of letters. Speaking with the different species will allow you to gain or lose favor with them and even help you learn the language. As your standing with the species increase, you can unlock different missions that revolve around their ideology, which provide you with items and upgrades, among other things. I cannot say much more about that since I've just recently unlocked those myself, so let's get into base building. There are also settlements, which you can govern and make decisions for, much like in a city building game, where you have to manage the happiness and productivity of a settlement and produce different items and resources there. I've not invested a ton of time into this system, so that's all I can say about it right now, so let's get into the combat of No Man's Sky. The multi-tool and your spaceship are your main options for combat, and you can customize them by equipping different upgrades and specialize them for one specific task, or you opt in for Jack of all trades approach. Now, what exactly will we be fighting? Well, so far I've encountered 3 types of hostile forces in the game. First, the Sentinel faction, which are a faction mostly made up of robot drones as far as I've experienced, and they're always hostile to you, regardless if you provoke them or not. They tend to have pretty nice loot, as a lot of my equipment upgrades currently are directly funded by the currency they drop. There are other ways to obtain that currency, of course. I've just been fighting them a lot. Most recently, last night, I finally managed to defeat a level 5 Sentinel force, which had a walker type enemy akin to those in Star Wars, and it was pretty difficult but exhilarating all the same to fight them. The second hostile forces I've encountered are the pirates. I'm not entirely sure what causes the pirates to attack you yet, but I've been getting a lot of bombardments from them recently, and as far as I've experienced, they only have spaceships, so it's always a spaceship fight when you encounter them. I haven't noticed any unique or remarkable loot when it comes to fighting them, but it could also just be me not paying attention. As far as I know, they're mostly hostile, but sometimes will offer you a deal so you can avoid confrontation if you accept it. The third hostile force I've encountered are the animals or insectoids. The only animal that has been hostile to me so far are some jellyfishes that I couldn't damage, but I presume there are more out there, as I've only visited around 10 to 15 planets so far and fully explored only one. The insectoids are essentially bugs that guard their eggs, and you can go and take their eggs and sell them for profit. Once you do that, they will swarm you and try to get the egg back and kill you. As this is only a first impression, I don't have the knowledge and time in the game to say if those are all the hostile encounters. But for me, I'm satisfied with the variation and I'm really loving fighting sentinels, especially since they seem very tightly woven into the story and lore of the game. Speaking of the story, I think this is a great time to talk a little bit about it. As with the other aspects of the game, I've not finished it or experienced it fully, but it's interesting enough for a sandbox game in my opinion, and I want to learn more about it as I play. So far, all I know is that I'm following a distress signal from one location to the next and trying to figure out what had happened and piece things together from a record box scattered about. You pick up that signal from the very first ship you find, which is in the tutorial of the game, where you learn about the basic game functions, and as far as I understand, you're looking for the owner of the ship, but I could be totally off base here, because that's just my assumption. The war itself goes very deep, but I've not spent a lot of time on it since without the knowledge of each language, it's hard to piece things together and get a full picture. But they are ancient relic sites of a civilization that had existed before the setting of the game, and something made them go extinct, and that's pretty much all I know about the story right now. With that being said, I guess it's time to wrap up this video, so let me give you a pros and cons with a little summary of my experience. Let's start with the pros. The game is packed full of content, and you can be sure there will be always something to find and do. The role-playing aspect of the game is very immersive, as you unlock customization options and faction quests. The ability to land on and take off of planets, while a small attention to detail, is huge when it comes to space exploration. It makes flying with your ship that much more enjoyable and immersive. There are thousands of build possibilities and specializations when it comes down to playing your character. You can either hyper-focus in one area or spread across several areas to do a lot of stuff at the same time. There are constant updates and additions to the game, as well as new graphical technology implementations that make the game both run better and look better, keeping it up with games of today. And lastly, this is somewhat personal, but for me it's a pro that the game has a GOG store availability. For those who don't know, Good Old Games is a platform that provides DRM-free products, and I choose to purchase games on GOG out of principle and always support developers whose products I'm interested in on GOG for their customer-centered practices and understanding that DRM is not a solution to sales problems. Allowing you to own what you actually buy, unlike other stores like Steam, Epic, Battle.net and the rest where you're only buying a license. And that's it for the pros. Let's get into the cons. There are a lot of little things that don't work well or are outright buggy, so an umbrella term would be that the game lacks polish. And almost every system has some junk in it. And just to name a few, the base building controls, the menu interactions and the NPC button prompts to speak with them all have a little issues when you try to work with them, and they feel buggy and unpolished. Now for my second con, storytelling is not ideal. While the story is interesting in its own right, the storytelling method is my least favorite one. While it makes sense for a space exploration game to have the story be scattered among the stars and for you to try and piece it all together, it makes it hard to keep track of it and follow it if you spread your game sessions across multiple days or weeks, as is in my case. And with the pros and cons out of the way, here is my summary. Overall, I am pleasantly surprised with No Man's Sky, and I plan to continue playing it and experiencing it further. The game, in my opinion, rightfully deserved the initial reaction it received back in 2016. However, it should be allowed to move away from that shadow and be properly recognized for the continuous updates, improvements and changes Hello Games have made. Would I recommend this game? Yes, I most certainly would. In my opinion, everybody will find something interesting inside No Man's Sky. Would I recommend this game for full price? Unfortunately, that is not the case. Let me elaborate. When I decide to buy a product, I expect that product to have no issues. I expect it to work as intended, and unfortunately that is not the case for No Man's Sky. Frankly, it's not been the case with PC games for the last 10 years. If I buy a light bulb, I expect it to work without any issues. If it flickers one day of the week and works flawlessly 6 days of the week, that is not a working light bulb. As such, the majority of stuff I buy is on sales, as I'm a patient gamer. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you did not, then a thumbs down. Leave a comment for the algorithm and subscribe for the upcoming full review once I'm finished with the game and for more such content. It's been my pleasure. Hybe, signing out.